Please, human, manually please me again. Luna's desperate plea echoes through the cramped engine room of the Celestial Embrace. Freezing, Dylan burns in his tracks. The 28-year-old engineer's mind reels, struggling to process the alien beauty's words and their implications. Moments ago, Luna's iridescent skin had brushed against him during a routine maintenance check, igniting an unexpected surge of arousal. Now, her mesmerizing purple eyes lock onto his, filled with a mixture of desire and alarm. Dylan's breath catches in his throat as he realizes the gravity of the situation. "What do you mean?" he manages to ask, his voice barely above a whisper. Luna's luminescent skin ripples with agitation as she explains, "Our touch has initiated a Brunali mating ritual. It must be completed, or I'll suffer severe consequences." Dylan's mind races. He'd come aboard the Brunali starship as part of a cultural exchange program, tasked with studying their advanced engineering techniques. Never in his wildest dreams did he imagine he'd find himself in this predicament. The Brunali, a humanoid race known for their striking beauty and biotechnological prowess, had only recently established diplomatic relations with Earth. As Luna continues to explain the intricacies of Brunali reproduction, a series of precisely timed physical interactions spanning several days, Dylan's sense of duty as Earth's representative clashes with his growing attraction to the alien scientist. Reluctantly, he agrees to help her, unaware of the chain of events he's set in motion. As Luna's skin glows with relief, the engine room door slides open with a hiss. Zorn, Luna's promised mate, and a high-ranking Brunali official, steps in, his face contorting with rage at the scene before him. "What is the meaning of this?" Zorn demands, his eyes darting between Luna and Dylan. Luna straightens, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "The mating ritual has been initiated, Zorn, with the human." Zorn's features darken with contempt. "Impossible! I challenge this human's right to complete the ritual. Our ancient laws forbid it." Dylan stands his ground, keenly aware of the delicate balance between Earth and the Brunali hanging in the balance. "I don't understand your laws, but I won't let Luna suffer." As Zorn opens his mouth to retort, alarms blare throughout the ship. The three rush to the nearest console, where an encrypted message flashes across the screen. Dylan's eyes widen as he decodes the Brunali text, his heart sinking with each word. The message reveals a sinister plot, the Brunali's true intentions towards Earth, enslavement of humanity under the guise of alliance. Dylan's mind races, torn between his duty to Earth and his promise to Luna. With time running out for both Luna and his home planet, Dylan knows he must act fast. He turns to face Zorn and Luna, his jaw set with determination. "We need to talk. All of us. The future of both our species depends on it." As tensions escalate and the stakes rise, Dylan realizes that navigating alien customs and outsmarting Zorn are just the beginning. To save Luna, Earth, and the fragile alliance between their races, he'll need every ounce of his human ingenuity and strength. The fate of two worlds now rests in his hands, and failure is not an option. Dylan's words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their implications. Zorn's eyes narrowed, his posture stiffening as he processed the human's challenge. Luna's luminescent skin pulsed with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Before any of them could speak, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Attention, all personnel. New cultural exchange participants have arrived. Please report to the docking bay for welcome procedures." Dylan's heart raced. This was his chance. "We'll continue this discussion later," he said, his voice firm. "For now, we have duties to attend to." Zorn grunted in reluctant agreement, and the three made their way to the docking bay. As they walked, Dylan's mind whirled with possibilities. He needed to contact Earth to warn them of the Brunali's true intentions. The docking bay bustled with activity as the new arrivals disembarked. Dylan scanned the crowd, his eyes landing on a petite woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. Commander Sarah Chen. Their gazes met briefly, a silent understanding passing between them. Over the next few days, Dylan worked tirelessly in the engine room, all while trying to find moments alone with Luna. Her condition worsened, her skin fluctuating between brilliant hues as her body temperature rose. "Dylan," she whispered during a rare moment of privacy. We must complete the ritual soon. I can feel my body changing. He nodded, acutely aware of the guards Zorn had stationed nearby. I know. We'll find a way. As they worked, Dylan noticed Luna's heightened senses. She flinched at the slightest sound, her eyes tracking the smallest movements. Her fingers trembled as they brushed against his arm, sending a jolt of electricity through both of them. One evening, as they huddled behind a large power converter, Luna's control finally snapped. She pressed herself against Dylan, her skin blazing with heat. Please, she begged, her voice barely audible. Dylan's heart pounded as he glanced around, looking for any sign of the guards. Seeing none, he quickly pulled Luna closer, his hands moving over her iridescent skin. She shuddered against him, her body responding instantly to his touch. Just as Luna's breathing began to steady, footsteps echoed nearby. They sprang apart, Dylan grabbing a nearby tool and pretending to work on the converter. A guard rounded the corner, eyeing them suspiciously before moving on. As the days passed, Dylan grew increasingly frustrated with his limited access to the ship. He needed to find proof of the Brunali's plans, but Zorn's security measures made it nearly impossible. One night, unable to sleep, Dylan decided to risk exploring the restricted areas of the ship. He slipped out of his quarters, using the engineering access codes to bypass security locks. Deep within the bowels of the ship, Dylan stumbled upon a hidden laboratory. His eyes widened as he took in the advanced equipment and glowing vials of strange substances. Holographic displays flickered with complex genetic sequences, and Dylan's blood ran cold as he realized the implications. As he hurriedly documented the lab's contents with his personal device, the door hissed open behind him. Dylan spun around, coming face to face with Zorn. I knew you couldn't be trusted, Zorn snarled, his hand hovering over the ship's communication panel. Dylan raised his hands, his mind racing for a way out of this situation. Zorn, wait. You don't understand. Before he could finish, Luna burst into the room, her skin pulsing with agitation. Dylan, I felt your distress. What's happening? Zorn's face contorted with rage. You've corrupted her. This human has turned you against your own people. As tension filled the air, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red emergency lights bathed the laboratory in an eerie glow as blast doors slammed shut, sealing them inside. Security breach in Section 7, a computerized voice announced, initiating lockdown procedures. Dylan, Luna, and Zorn exchanged looks of shock and confusion. In the distance, they could hear the sounds of struggle and shouting. What have you done? Zorn demanded, advancing on Dylan. Before Dylan could respond, the ship rocked violently, throwing them all off balance. The sound of energy weapons discharging echoed through the corridors. Luna stumbled, her body racked with tremors. Dylan, she gasped, reaching for him. The ritual. We're running out of time. As Dylan moved to support Luna, Zorn positioned himself between them. You'll not touch her again, human. Your interference ends now. The three stood in a tense standoff, the alarm still blaring around them. Dylan knew he had to act fast. Earth's operatives were clearly making their move, but without proof of the Brunali's plans, the situation could quickly spiral into an interstellar incident. With Luna's life hanging in the balance and the fate of human-Brunali relations at stake, Dylan prepared to confront Zorn once and for all. He took a deep breath, his mind racing to find a solution that would save Luna, expose the truth, and prevent an all-out war between their species. The standoff in the laboratory shattered as Zorn, his face contorted with rage, lunged at Dylan. Time seemed to slow as Dylan's military training kicked in. He sidestepped Zorn's attack, using the Brunali's momentum against him. In one fluid motion, Dylan grabbed a nearby centrifuge and swung it around, catching Zorn off guard and pinning him against the lab bench. Luna, we need to go, Dylan shouted, his eyes darting between the immobilized Zorn and the alien scientist. Luna's iridescent skin pulsed with conflicting emotions. She glanced at Zorn, then back at Dylan, her decision crystallizing in an instant. With trembling fingers, she input a series of commands into the nearest console. The lab's blast doors hissed open. This way, she said, her voice barely audible above the blaring alarms. As they sprinted from the lab, Zorn's enraged roar echoed behind them. The corridors of the celestial embrace had transformed into a battleground. The sharp crack of energy weapons and the acrid smell of ozone filled the air. Dylan and Luna pressed themselves against a wall as a group of Earth operatives exchanged fire with Brunali guards at the far end of the passageway. "Commander Chen," Dylan breathed, recognizing the leader of the human squad. Luna tugged at his arm. "We can't stay here. We need to reach the communication hub." They darted down a series of maintenance tunnels, the sounds of battle growing more distant. Luna's breathing became labored, her skin fluctuating between brilliant hues. She stumbled, and Dylan caught her. "Luna, are you all right?" She leaned into him, her body radiating an intense heat. "The mating cycle. It's progressing faster than I anticipated. We need to complete the ritual soon, or—" A series of metallic clicks interrupted her. A swarm of security drones rounded the corner, their sensors locking onto the pair. Dylan cursed under his breath, pulling Luna into a run. They emerged into a wider corridor, alarms still blaring. Ahead, a group of Brunali soldiers appeared, their weapons trained on Dylan and Luna. Before either side could react, a massive electromagnetic pulse rippled through the ship. The lights flickered and died, plunging them into near darkness. The Brunali weapons sputtered and went dark. Taking advantage of the confusion, Dylan and Luna slipped past the disoriented soldiers. They navigated by the dim emergency lighting, finally reaching the communication hub. Dylan's fingers flew over the console, initiating the data transfer of the evidence he'd gathered. Come on, he muttered, watching the progress bar inch forward. Suddenly, the console went dark. The EMP had reached them, cutting off the transmission. Dylan hit his fist against the dead screen in frustration. No! Luna sagged against him, her skin now a pallid blue. "Dylan! I can't—" He caught her as she collapsed, her body burning with fever. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He needed to complete the mating ritual with Luna, or she might not survive long enough for them to finish their mission. As if sensing his thoughts, Luna's eyes fluttered open. "Dylan," she whispered, her hand reaching for his face. "We don't have much time." He nodded, his heart racing. "I know, but we're exposed here. We need to find somewhere safer." Supporting Luna, Dylan made his way to a small maintenance closet adjacent to the hub. He sealed the door behind them, praying it would buy them some time. In the confined space, Luna's need became overwhelming. Her luminescent skin pulsed with an otherworldly glow, drawing Dylan in. Their lips met, and the world seemed to fall away. Dylan's senses were flooded with sensations he couldn't begin to describe. Luna's skin rippled beneath his touch, sending waves of pleasure through both of them. As they joined, Dylan felt as if he was touching the very essence of an alien star. Time lost all meaning in that small closet. When they finally separated, both gasping for breath, Luna's skin had returned to its normal, healthy glow. She smiled up at Dylan, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and something deeper. "Thank you," she whispered. Before Dylan could respond, the sound of boots in the corridor outside snapped them back to reality. Zorn's voice carried through the door, barking orders to his search team. Dylan and Luna exchanged a look of commitment. They had survived one crisis, but their mission was not nearly finished. With the ship in chaos, life support systems failing, and Zorn closing in, they would need every ounce of their combined strength and ingenuity to expose the truth and prevent an interstellar war. As Zorn's team drew nearer, Dylan and Luna prepared themselves for the confrontation to come. The fate of two worlds rested in their hands, and failure was not an option. An option. As they caught their breath in the cramped maintenance closet, the ship's emergency lights flickered, casting an eerie red glow over their faces. Suddenly, a violent shudder rocked the celestial embrace, nearly throwing them off balance. The alarms, which had become almost background noise, changed pitch and intensity. "What was that?" Luna whispered, her eyes wide with concern. Dylan pressed his ear against the closet door, straining to hear any clues about their situation. The muffled sound of panicked voices and hurried footsteps filtered through. "I don't know, but it can't be good," he replied, his mind racing. "We need to get back to the communication hub." As they cautiously emerged from their hiding spot, the true extent of their predicament became clear. The corridor was bathed in the dim glow of emergency lighting, and the air felt thin and stale. Dylan's engineering instincts kicked in, and he quickly realized the ship's life support systems were failing. "Oxygen levels are dropping," he muttered, noting the labored breathing of a passing Brunali crew member, who seemed too preoccupied to notice them. Luna nodded, her skin pulsing with a faint, worried glow. "The EMP must have affected more systems than we thought. We need to restore power, and fast." They made their way back to the communication hub, narrowly avoiding detection by Zorn's search parties. The once bustling command center was now dark and eerily quiet, save for the occasional spark from damaged consoles. Dylan immediately set to work, his fingers dancing across the control panel as he searched for a way to restore power. Luna kept watch, her heightened senses alert for any sign of danger. "There," Dylan exclaimed softly, pulling open a hidden compartment. "An emergency power cell. If I can connect this to the main console, we might be able to get partial systems back online." As Dylan worked, Luna's condition began to deteriorate. Her skin flickered with increasing intensity, and she leaned heavily against a nearby wall. "Dylan," she gasped, her voice strained. "The mating cycle. It's progressing faster than I expected. I don't know how much longer I can—" He glanced up from his work, concern etched across his face. "Just hold on a little longer, Luna. I'm almost there." With a final connection, the console hummed to life. Dim lights flickered across its surface, offering a glimmer of hope in the darkness. "It worked," Dylan breathed, relief washing over him. But their victory was short-lived as he realized the limited power supply would only allow them to send fragments of data at a time. Luna stumbled, her knees buckling. Dylan caught her, feeling the intense heat radiating from her luminescent skin. "Luna, we can't wait any longer," he said, his voice low and urgent. "We need to complete the ritual, at least partially. It's the only way you'll be able to focus on our mission." She nodded weakly, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of need and trust. In the shadows of the communication hub, they came together once more. Their encounter was brief but intense, the urgency of their situation heightening every sensation. As they separated, Luna's glow stabilized, her breathing evening out. "Thank you," she whispered, squeezing Dylan's hand. With renewed focus, they turned their attention to the console. "We can only send small packets of data," Dylan explained. "We need to choose carefully what we transmit. The wrong choice could jeopardize everything." "This is—" Luna nodded, her scientific mind already analyzing their options. "Start with the genetic sequences we found in the lab. That's the most damning evidence of the Brunali's true intentions." As Dylan began the painstaking process of transmitting the data, Luna kept watch. The sound of Zorn's search party grew closer, their angry voices echoing through the corridors. Suddenly, a new alarm blared through the ship's speakers. "Proximity alert," an automated voice announced. "Multiple asteroid contacts detected. Impact imminent." Dylan and Luna exchanged alarmed glances. The ship shuddered as smaller debris collided with the hull, the impacts growing more frequent and intense. "The EMP must have knocked us off course," Luna realized, her face pale in the dim light of the console. "We've drifted into an asteroid field." Dylan's fingers flew across the keyboard, trying to access the ship's navigation systems. "If we don't change course soon, we'll be torn apart." As if in response to their dire situation, the console before them flickered, its display changing to show a ship-wide systems diagnostic. The Celestial Embrace's AI was coming back online, adapting to the crisis. "Look," Luna pointed to the screen. "The AI is rerouting power to stabilize oxygen levels and restore critical systems." Dylan nodded, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "This might buy us some time, but we're not out of danger yet." Another violent impact rocked the ship, nearly knocking them off their feet. Distant alarms signaled hull breaches in multiple sectors. "We have to make a choice," Luna said, her voice tight with tension. "Do we continue transmitting the evidence and risk the ship's destruction, or do we use our combined knowledge to help navigate out of this asteroid field?" Dylan's face hardened as he weighed their options. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, but so did the lives of everyone aboard the Celestial Embrace. Before he could respond, the door to the communication hub slid open with a hiss. Commander Chen stood in the entrance, her uniform torn and a makeshift energy weapon in her hand. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said, her eyes darting between Dylan and Luna. "But we've got a ship to save." As Dylan opened his mouth to explain their situation, another asteroid impact sent tremors through the ship. Time was running out, and they needed to act fast. The choice they made in the next few moments would determine not just their fate, but the future of human-Brunali relations and the lives of everyone aboard the Celestial Embrace. Embrace. Dylan looked at Luna, then at Commander Chen, his mind racing. The ship shuddered again, and the decision crystallized in his mind. "We need to save the ship first," he said, his voice firm. "Without it, we're all dead, and the evidence doesn't matter." Luna nodded, her skin pulsing with a mix of relief and grit. "Agreed. Let's go." They left the communication hub, with Commander Chen close behind. Luna's bioluminescent glow lit their way through the darkened corridors, casting eerie shadows on the walls. As they moved, Dylan noticed the air growing thinner, each breath more labored than the last. They reached the bridge, finding a handful of Brunali crew members frantically working at their stations. The view screen showed a sea of asteroids, some as large as small moons, hurtling towards them. Dylan immediately took charge, assessing the damage to the ship's systems. His fingers flew over the console, bringing up diagnostic reports and power distribution charts. "Luna, I need you to interface with the Brunali systems," he called out. "See if you can bypass the damaged relays and reroute power to the navigation and propulsion systems." Luna nodded, her hands moving with practiced ease over the alien technology. Her skin flickered with increased intensity as she concentrated, the mating cycle's effects still evident, but temporarily pushed aside by the urgency of their task. As they worked, more asteroids struck the ship. Alarms blared, signaling hull breaches on multiple decks. Emergency force fields sprang to life, but the strain on the ship's power reserves was evident in the flickering lights and faltering systems. Commander Chen and her team arrived, looking battered but determined. She quickly assessed the situation and began coordinating with the Brunali crew to organize repair efforts. "We need to seal off the damaged sections," Chen ordered. "Redirect any available power to the shields and engines." As if on cue, the bridge doors hissed open, revealing Zorn and a group of his officers. Weapons were drawn on both sides, creating a tense standoff. "What is the meaning of this?" Zorn demanded, his eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. Before anyone could respond, a massive impact rocked the ship, nearly knocking them off their feet. Sparks flew from a nearby console, and the lights dimmed even further. "We don't have time for this," Dylan shouted, frustration evident in his voice. "The ship is falling apart. We need to work together if we want to survive." Zorn hesitated, his gaze shifting between Dylan, Luna, and the chaotic bridge. Finally, he lowered his weapon. "What do you need?" With the temporary truce established, the combined human-Brunali team worked feverishly to stabilize the ship. Dylan and Luna moved in perfect sync, their efforts bolstered by the ship's AI, which had finally come back online. As they worked, Luna's condition worsened. Her skin flickered erratically, and she stumbled, nearly collapsing against a console. Dylan caught her, feeling the intense heat radiating from her body. "Luna," he whispered, torn between his duty to the ship and his growing concern for her. "Hold on, we're almost there." She nodded weakly, leaning into his touch for a moment before steeling herself and returning to her task. The ship's AI calculated a safe trajectory out of the asteroid field, but executing the maneuvers required precise timing and coordination. As they prepared for the final push, a massive asteroid loomed directly in their path. "We don't have enough power?" one of the Brunali officers called out. "We can't maintain life support and execute the maneuver." Dylan's mind raced, searching for a solution. His eyes fell on a schematic of the ship, zeroing in on the genetic manipulation labs. "We can divert power from the labs," he said, turning to face Zorn. "It's our only chance." Zorn's face contorted with anger. "Absolutely not! That research is vital to—" "To what?" Luna interrupted, her voice strained but clear. She stood up straight, her glow intensifying as she addressed the Brunali officers. "To your plans against humanity? The genetic manipulation program was never about peaceful coexistence. It was about control, about reshaping humans to fit your ideals. A murmur ran through the bridge as Luna's words sank in. Zorn's supporters looked uncertain, their loyalty wavering in the face of the revealed truth and the imminent threat of destruction. "We don't have time to debate this," Commander Chen cut in. "We need to make a decision now." The ship groaned as another asteroid struck its hull. Dylan looked at Luna, then at the view screen showing the massive asteroid drawing ever closer. "We're diverting power from the labs," he declared, his fingers already moving across the console. Zorn lunged forward, but was quickly restrained by his own officers. The majority had sided with Dylan and Luna, recognizing the need for immediate action. As power flooded into the ship's engines and shields, Dylan and Luna worked in tandem to execute the complex series of maneuvers. The celestial embrace shuddered and creaked, pushing against the limits of its damaged systems. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as though they might not make it. The massive asteroid filled the view screen, its cratered surface coming into sharp focus. Then, with a final burst of power, the ship turned, scraping past the asteroid with mere meters to spare. Cheers erupted on the bridge as they cleared the immediate danger, but the celebration was short-lived as alarms blared throughout the ship, signaling the complete destruction of the genetic manipulation labs. Zorn, his face a mask of fury, broke free from his captors. "You've destroyed everything," he shouted, lunging towards Dylan and Luna. "I'll see you both executed for this." Commander Chen stepped between them, her weapon raised. "Stand down, Zorn. It's over." As Zorn was subdued once more, Dylan turned to Luna. She sagged against him, her skin flickering weakly. The stress of the situation had pushed her mating cycle to dangerous levels. "Luna," Dylan said softly, cradling her face in his hands. "Stay with me. We made it." She managed a small smile, her hand reaching up to touch his. "We did," she whispered. As the immediate crisis passed, the crew began to assess the damage and start repairs. Dylan and Luna found a quiet corner of the bridge, taking a moment to recover from their ordeal. "How are you feeling?" Dylan asked, his concern evident. Luna's glow had stabilized somewhat, but she still radiated an intense heat. "Better," she said, "but we're not out of danger yet. My cycle, it's still progressing." Dylan nodded, understanding the unspoken implication. Their bond was helping, but they would need to complete the mating ritual soon if Luna was to fully recover. As they stood together, looking out at the star-filled expanse beyond the view screen, the reality of their situation began to sink in. The celestial embrace was badly damaged, drifting in unfamiliar space. The fragile truce between humans and Brunelli could shatter at any moment, and at the center of it all, Dylan and Luna faced the challenge of their growing relationship amidst interstellar conflict. The journey ahead promised to test them in ways they had never imagined, but as Dylan felt Luna's hand in his, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Together. The weight of their shared experiences hung between them, a testament to the trials they had endured and the challenges that still lay ahead. Their moment of reflection was cut short by a sudden alarm blaring through the ship's speakers. Luna winced, her heightened senses making the noise particularly grating. "Warning! Life support systems critical. Oxygen levels decreasing in sectors 3 through 7, the ship's AI announced. Dylan's eyes widened. "We need to get back to work. The ship's not out of danger yet." As they hurried to the nearest console, Luna stumbled, her skin flickering erratically. Dylan caught her arm, steadying her. "Luna, are you all right?" She shook her head, her voice strained. "The cycle, it's intensifying. I can barely focus." Dylan glanced around the bridge, noting the busy crew members engrossed in their tasks. He made a quick decision, leading Luna towards the exit. "Come on, I know a place where we can check on the life support systems privately." They made their way through the corridors, Luna leaning heavily on Dylan for support. Her skin pulsed with waves of bioluminescence, casting an otherworldly glow on the metallic walls. They reached a secluded maintenance bay, its door slightly ajar. Dylan ushered Luna inside, closing the door behind them. "There's a malfunctioning life support node here we need to check," he said loudly, for the benefit of anyone who might be listening. Then, lowering his voice, he turned to Luna. "We don't have much time, but—" Luna nodded, understanding. Without another word, they came together, their bodies intertwining with a desperate urgency. The intimate contact sent waves of relief through Luna's system, temporarily quelling the intense biological urges of her mating cycle. As they separated, both felt a renewed sense of energy and focus. Luna's glow had stabilized, and her breathing was more even. "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes meeting Dylan's. He squeezed her hand in response. "We should get back to the bridge." As they exited the maintenance bay, they nearly collided with Commander Chen, who was striding purposefully down the corridor. "There you are," Chen said, her expression grim. "We have a situation." She quickly briefed them on Krell's escape and the approaching Brunali warship. Dylan and Luna exchanged worried glances as they followed Chen back to the bridge. The scene that greeted them was one of controlled chaos. Crew members, both human and Brunali, worked feverishly at their stations. The main view screen showed a menacing shape growing larger against the backdrop of stars, the Brunali warship. Dylan immediately took charge of the communications array, attempting to hail the approaching vessel. "Brunali warship, this is the Celestial Embrace. We are experiencing severe system failures and request assistance. Please respond." Silence met his transmission. Luna frowned, her fingers dancing over a nearby console. "Their communications array is active. They're receiving us but choosing not to respond." A junior officer called out from across the bridge. "Sir, we're detecting energy buildups consistent with weapon systems." Dylan's mind raced. "We need to make them think twice about attacking. Luna, can we generate a false weapon signature?" Luna nodded, already working on the problem. "Yes, but it'll require diverting power from life support. We'd be trading one risk for another." As they debated the merits of the plan, alarms blared once again. A Brunali officer's voice cut through the noise. "The genetic manipulation labs, they're reactivating." Commander Chen swore under her breath. "Krell, he must have accessed emergency protocols." Dylan looked at Luna, an idea forming. "The labs, we might be able to use them to our advantage." He quickly outlined his plan to synthesize a modified version of the Brunali mating pheromones, hoping to stabilize Luna's condition. Luna's eyes widened. "Dylan, that's incredibly risky. We don't know what effect a synthetic compound might have." "I know," he replied, his voice low. "But it might buy us the time we need to deal with both Krell and the warship." As they considered the proposal, the ship shuddered. The Brunali warship had fired a warning shot, the energy blast passing close enough to the Celestial Embrace to rock it. Commander Chen's voice cut through the ensuing chaos. "We're out of time. Dylan, Luna, do what you need to do. I'll coordinate the search for Krell and our defense against the warship." With a nod, Dylan and Luna raced towards the partially reactivated labs, knowing that the next few hours would test them in ways they had never imagined. The fate of the Celestial Embrace and possibly human-Brunali relations hung in the balance. As they ran, Luna's condition worsened again, her steps faltering. Dylan supported her, his mind whirling with calculations and possibilities. They had to succeed. The alternative was unthinkable. They reached the labs, the doors sliding open with a hiss. Inside, the air hummed with the energy of reactivating equipment. Screens flickered to life, displaying complex genetic sequences and molecular structures. "Let's get to work," Dylan said, guiding Luna to a nearby workstation. "We don't have much time." As they began the delicate process of synthesizing the modified pheromones, the ship rocked again, another warning shot from the Brunali warship. Somewhere in the depths of the Celestial Embrace, Krell was enacting his own plans, adding to the ticking clock of their predicament. Dylan and Luna worked in tandem, their movements synchronized, each anticipating the other's needs. Despite the dire circumstances, they found a moment of connection in their shared purpose. Whatever came next, they would face it together. More together. As they worked feverishly to synthesize the modified pheromones, the ship's hull vibrated with another impact from the Brunali warship. Dylan's hands steadied Luna as she stumbled, her skin flickering wildly. "We're running out of time," Luna gasped, her voice strained. Dylan nodded, his eyes scanning the complex molecular structures displayed on the nearest screen. I think we're close. Just a few more adjustments to the base compound and... His words trailed off as he noticed something odd about the lab. Several workstations showed signs of recent activity, and upon closer inspection, he realized that vials of experimental compounds were missing. Luna, look at this, he said, gesturing to the empty slots in a nearby storage unit. Someone's been here recently. Luna's eyes widened. Krell? She whispered, her tone a mixture of fear and anger. Before they could discuss further, Commander Chen's voice crackled over the intercom. Dylan, Luna, status report. We've got multiple incoming craft from the Brunali warship. They don't appear to be weapons, but we're assuming hostile intent. Dylan pressed the comm button. Understood, Commander. We're close to synthesizing the pheromones, but we've discovered signs of Krell's presence in the lab. He's taken some experimental compounds. Damn, Chen cursed. All right, we're implementing your weapons signature plan. It'll strain our life support, but it's our best shot at deterring an attack. Work fast, you two. As the communication cut off, Luna swayed on her feet, her skin pulsing with intense light. Dylan caught her arm, steadying her. Luna, we need to test the compound now. Your condition is deteriorating rapidly. She nodded weakly, allowing Dylan to guide her to a nearby chair. With practiced movements, he loaded the synthesized pheromones into an injector and pressed it against Luna's arm. The effect was immediate and intense. Luna's back arched, her eyes wide as the compound surged through her system. For a heart-stopping moment, Dylan feared they had made a terrible mistake. Then gradually, Luna's erratic glow stabilized and her breathing steadied. Luna? Dylan asked cautiously, kneeling beside her. When she opened her eyes, Dylan gasped. The intensity of her gaze was overwhelming, filled with a depth of emotion he had never seen before. Dylan, she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. I can feel everything. You, the ship, the crew. It's all so clear. As they stared at each other, a new understanding passed between them. The pheromones had created an unexpected empathic link, allowing them to communicate on a level that transcended words. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Luna winced at the sound, her heightened senses making the noise almost unbearable. Boarding craft, Dylan said, the information coming to him through their newfound connection. We need to move. Together they raced from the lab, their movements perfectly synchronized. As they navigated the damaged corridors of the celestial embrace, Dylan marveled at their enhanced coordination. It was as if they were two parts of a single fluid entity. Through their empathic link, a realization struck them both simultaneously. Krell, Luna said, her voice urgent. He's planning to use the stolen compounds to incapacitate the crew. We need to stop him before the boarding parties breach the hull. They changed course, heading toward the nearest airlock. As they ran, they passed crew members preparing for battle, the tension palpable in the air. Through their connection, Dylan and Luna could sense the fear and drive emanating from both humans and Brunali alike. They reached the airlock just as a loud clang reverberated through the ship's hull. Through the small viewport, they could see the sleek form of a Brunali boarding craft, latching onto the celestial embrace. There! Luna pointed to a figure hunched over a control panel near the ventilation system. Krell was furiously working, a vial of shimmering liquid in his hand. Dylan stepped forward, his voice firm. Krell, stop! You don't have to do this. Krell whirled around, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fanaticism. Stay back, he shouted, holding the vial threateningly. One more step and I'll release this into the ventilation system. It'll incapacitate everyone on board, including me, if necessary. Luna moved to stand beside Dylan, her skin pulsing with a soft, calming light. Through their empathic link, Dylan could sense her reaching out, trying to connect with Krell's emotions. Krell, she said softly, think about what you're doing. This isn't the way to bring our people together. Look at Dylan and me. We found a way to work together, to understand each other on a deeper level. There's so much potential for peace between our species. Krell's hand trembled, uncertainty flickering across his face. But the Council, our traditions. Traditions can change, Dylan added, building on Luna's words. The Brunali have always valued adaptation and evolution. This is your chance to be part of something groundbreaking, something that could benefit both our peoples. As they spoke, the sounds of battle echoed through the ship. The boarding parties had breached the hull, and the corridors of the celestial embrace had become a battleground. Krell's commitment wavered, his grip on the vial loosening. I don't know what to do, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. In that moment of vulnerability, Luna reached out both physically and empathically. Let us help you, Krell. Together, we can find a better way. Slowly, hesitantly, Krell lowered the vial. As he did, a new idea formed in Dylan's mind, sparked by their empathic connection. The compound, he said, excitement building in his voice. We can modify it, use it to subdue the boarding parties without causing lasting harm. Krell, your knowledge could be crucial in making this work. Krell's eyes widened, a glimmer of hope replacing the desperation that had driven him. You would trust me to help? Luna nodded, her gentle glow enveloping them all. Yes, Krell. This is your chance to make things right. As Krell joined them, the three raced back to the lab, their minds already working on the modifications needed for the compound. The fate of the celestial embrace, and possibly the future of human-Brunali relations, now rested on their ability to turn a weapon into a tool for peace. Behind them, the sounds of battle grew louder, a constant reminder of the ticking clock they faced. Yet as they entered the lab and began their work, a sense of cautious optimism filled the air. Together, they might just find a way to end this conflict before it spiraled out of control. Yet as they entered the lab and began their work, a sense of cautious optimism filled the air. Together, they might just find a way to end this conflict before it spiraled out of control. Hours passed as Dylan, Luna, and Krell worked tirelessly to modify the compound. Their efforts paid off, and with the help of the ship's security team, they managed to subdue the Brunali boarding parties without bloodshed. The immediate threat neutralized, both sides agreed to open negotiations. As the human and Brunali delegations prepared for talks, Dylan noticed something was amiss with Luna. Her skin flickered erratically, and she seemed to struggle to focus. Luna, are you all right? Dylan asked, concern evident in his voice. She blinked rapidly, trying to clear her vision. I'm not sure. Everything feels intense. Before Dylan could respond, Luna's knees buckled. He caught her just before she hit the ground, her body trembling in his arms. We need medical assistance, Dylan shouted, cradling Luna as her condition rapidly deteriorated. Commander Chen rushed over, her face etched with worry. What's happening? It's the pheromone compound, Dylan explained, his voice tight with fear. Something's gone wrong. Chen's comm unit crackled to life. Commander, the Brunali delegation is ready to begin talks. She hesitated for a moment, torn between the immediate crisis and the larger political situation. Understood. Prepare the conference room. Dylan, get Luna to the medical bay immediately. I'll stall the negotiations as long as I can. Dylan nodded, scooping Luna into his arms and racing toward the medical bay. Through their empathic link, he could feel her confusion and pain, the sensations growing more chaotic with each passing second. As they burst into the medical bay, Dr. Alara Voss, the ship's xenobiologist, looked up from her workstation. Her eyes widened as she took in Luna's condition. Put her on the biobed, Dr. Voss instructed, already moving to activate the medical scanners. Dylan gently laid Luna down, his hand lingering on hers. Through their link, he sent waves of comfort and reassurance, even as his own fear threatened to overwhelm him. Dr. Voss frowned at the readings on her screen. The pheromone compound is interacting unpredictably with her Brunali physiology. Her neural patterns are becoming increasingly erratic. Can you help her? Dylan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Voss's expression was grim. I'll do everything I can, but without intervention, she could suffer severe neurological damage. As Dr. Voss worked to stabilize Luna's condition, Dylan's comm unit beeped. Commander Chen's voice came through, tense and urgent. Dylan, I need you in the conference room immediately. The Brunali delegation is growing impatient, and Admiral Thoran is demanding explanations. Your unique perspective could be crucial in keeping these talks from falling apart. Dylan looked at Luna's pale face, torn between his duty to the ship and his desire to stay by her side. Dr. Voss met his gaze. Go? I'll do everything I can for her. You might be able to do more good in those negotiations. With a heavy heart, Dylan squeezed Luna's hand one last time and headed for the conference room. As he walked, he could feel the empathic link fluctuating wildly, Luna's emotions surging and ebbing like a turbulent sea. The conference room doors slid open, revealing a tense tableau. On one side sat Commander Chen and the human delegation. Opposite them, Admiral Thorin, a stern-faced Brunali with piercing eyes, led his own team. The atmosphere crackled with barely held-back hostility. "Ah, Lieutenant Harper," Admiral Thoran's voice dripped with sarcasm. "How kind of you to join us. Perhaps now we can get some answers about the unauthorized use of Brunali technology on your ship." Dylan took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenging conversation ahead. As he opened his mouth to respond, a wave of pain and confusion washed over him through the empathic link. Luna's condition was worsening. Gritting his teeth, Dylan forced himself to focus on the task at hand. The fate of both their species might well depend on the outcome of these negotiations. Yet even as he engaged in the delicate diplomatic dance, a part of his mind remained with Luna, silently willing her to hold on. In the medical bay, Dr. Voss worked feverishly, her brow furrowed in concentration as she fought to unravel the complex interactions between the pheromone compound and Luna's unique physiology. Time was running out, and she knew that the young Brunali's life hung in the balance. As the negotiations in the conference room grew more heated and Luna's condition became increasingly critical, the celestial embrace found itself at a crossroads. The next few hours would determine not only the fate of human-Brunali relations, but also the life of one extraordinary individual who had come to embody the potential for understanding between their two species. The tension in the conference room was palpable, every moment fraught with the potential for disaster. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship, their shrill cry cutting through the heated negotiations. Commander Chen's comm unit crackled to life, relaying urgent information from the bridge. "Commander, we have an unidentified object approaching at high speed. It's massive, unlike anything we've ever encountered." The news sent a ripple of unease through both delegations. Admiral Thoran's eyes narrowed, his posture stiffening. "Is this some kind of human trick?" Before Chen could respond, the ship lurched violently, sending everyone stumbling. The lights flickered, plunging the room into momentary darkness before emergency power kicked in. "This is no trick, Admiral," Chen said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We're all in danger. I propose a temporary alliance until we can assess and neutralize this threat." Thorin hesitated for a moment, then nodded curtly. "Agreed. I'll contact my ship and coordinate our defenses." As the two leaders sprang into action, Dylan felt a surge of pain through his empathic link with Luna. He stumbled, gripping the edge of the conference table for support. "Lieutenant Harper, are you all right?" Chen asked, concern evident in her voice. Dylan nodded, forcing himself to focus. "Yes, Commander, but Luna, her condition is critical. I need to get to the medical bay." Chen's expression softened for a moment. "Go. We'll handle things here." Dylan raced through the corridors, dodging panicked crew members and sparking conduits. The ship shuddered again, and he nearly lost his footing. Through the empathic link, he could feel Luna's pain intensifying, mixed with a strange sense of transformation. He burst into the medical bay to find Dr. Voss hunched over Luna's biobed, her fingers flying across the controls. Luna's body was convulsing, her skin flickering with an otherworldly light. "What's happening?" Dylan demanded, rushing to Luna's side. Dr. Voss didn't look up from her work. "The compound is causing rapid genetic mutations. I'm attempting an experimental therapy, combining elements of human and Brunali DNA to stabilize her condition." Dylan grasped Luna's hand, sending waves of comfort through their link. He could feel her body changing, adapting, becoming something new. The sensations were overwhelming, a kaleidoscope of pain and wonder. Suddenly, Luna's eyes flew open, glowing with an intense inner light. She gasped, her back arching off the biobed. Dylan felt a surge of energy through their connection, and then calm. "Luna?" he whispered, hardly daring to hope. She turned to him, her eyes now a swirling mix of human and Brunei characteristics. "Dylan," she said, her voice stronger than he'd ever heard it. I feel different. Powerful." Before they could process this development, the ship rocked violently. The lighting systems failed completely, leaving only the dim glow of emergency backlights. Dr. Voss checked her instruments. "Life support is failing in multiple sections. We need to evacuate non-essential personnel immediately." As if on cue, Commander Chen's voice came over the ship-wide comm system, ordering all non-essential crew to move to the more stable areas of the ship. The medical bay doors slid open, revealing a corridor filled with frantic crew members rushing to safety. Luna sat up, swinging her legs off the bio-bed. "We need to help," she said, her voice filled with tenacity. Dr. Voss moved to stop her. "You're in no condition to—" But Luna was already on her feet, moving with a grace and strength that left both Dylan and Dr. Voss staring in amazement. "I'm fine," she assured them. "Better than fine. We need to find out what's happening." As they stepped into the corridor, Krell appeared, pushing his way through the crowd. "Dylan, I've been looking everywhere for you. I have information that could help us communicate with the entity." Dylan looked at Luna, torn between staying with her and pursuing this potential solution. She nodded, understanding flowing through their empathic link. "Go," she said. "I'll help with the evacuation. We'll find each other again." With a final squeeze of her hand, Dylan followed Krell towards the genetic manipulation labs. As they navigated the chaotic ship, dodging falling debris and helping injured crew members, Krell explained about the prototype communication device. They reached the labs to find them in disarray, equipment scattered across the floor. The prototype device lay in pieces, damaged during the recent conflicts. "We need to repair it quickly," Krell said, already gathering the scattered components. Dylan joined him, and they worked feverishly, their efforts hampered by intermittent power outages and the ship's increasingly unstable condition. Through it all, Dylan could feel Luna's presence in his mind, a beacon of strength and hope. As they put the finishing touches on the repaired device, the lab doors slid open. Luna stood there, her new hybrid physiology evident in her stance and the otherworldly glow of her skin. "I felt you needed me," she said simply, moving to join them. Together, the trio activated the device. It hummed to life, emitting a complex series of signals that seemed to resonate with the energy pulses from the alien entity. For a moment, nothing happened. Then abruptly, the energy pulses ceased, and an eerie calm descended upon the celestial embrace. Through the lab's viewport, they watched in awe as the alien vessel began to change shape, its organic-looking exterior morphing into a structure that bore an uncanny resemblance to both human and Brunei architecture. A beam of light extended from the alien ship, making contact with the celestial embrace's hull. Immediately, the ship's computer systems began to overflow with incoming data. "We need to get to the bridge," Dylan said, already moving towards the door. As they raced through the ship, Luna's enhanced senses picked up fragments of the alien data. It's not an attack," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "It's trying to communicate, to connect." They burst onto the bridge to find Commander Chen and Admiral Thorin struggling to make sense of the flood of information. Luna stepped forward, her hybrid physiology allowing her to instinctively understand portions of the alien message. "It's not hostile," she announced, her voice cutting through the chaos on the bridge. It's a creation of an ancient civilization, one that combined aspects of both human and Brunei ancestral species." The revelation sent shockwaves through the bridge crew. Human and Brunei alike stared at Luna, then at each other. Centuries of conflict suddenly cast in a new light. As the implications of this discovery began to sink in, alarms continued to blare throughout the ship. Systems strained under the weight of the alien data influx, and the celestial embrace groaned as if it might tear itself apart at any moment. Commander Chen's voice cut through the stunned silence. "We need to make a decision. Do we continue communication with this entity and risk further damage to our ship, or do we break contact and focus on our immediate survival?" All eyes turned to Dylan and Luna, standing united at the center of this cosmic mystery. The fate of both their species hung in the balance, with the potential for either unprecedented discovery or catastrophic destruction looming before them. Them. The weight of their decision pressed down on Dylan and Luna, their empathic link thrumming with shared anxiety and perseverance. Suddenly, Luna gasped, her eyes widening as she processed the alien data flooding through her enhanced senses. "I understand now," she breathed, her voice tinged with awe. "It's not just trying to communicate, it's sharing itself with us." Dylan squeezed her hand, anchoring her as she navigated the sea of information. "What do you mean, Luna?" Before she could answer, the ship lurched violently, throwing several crew members off balance. Commander Chen's voice cut through the chaos. "Report!" A frantic technician responded. "Commander, the entity's energy is interfacing directly with our systems. We're losing control of life support and artificial gravity in multiple sections." Chen's face hardened as she made a swift decision. "Initiate emergency evacuation protocols for affected areas. Move all personnel to stable sections immediately." As the order went out, the bridge erupted into frenzied activity. Dylan watched as human and Brunali crew members alike scrambled to coordinate the evacuation, their previous hostilities momentarily forgotten in the face of imminent danger. Luna tugged on Dylan's sleeve, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "We need to get to the genetic manipulation labs. Krell has an idea that might help us communicate more effectively with the entity." They raced through the corridors, dodging panicked crew members and sparking conduits. The ship's gravity fluctuated wildly, causing them to float momentarily before crashing back to the deck. Through their empathic link, Dylan could feel Luna's persistence mingling with his own fear and excitement. They found Krell in the lab, hunched over the prototype communication device they had repaired earlier. The Brunali scientist looked up as they entered, his expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. "I've been analyzing the data we've received," Krell explained hurriedly. "I believe we can modify this device to establish a direct neural link with the entity. It's risky, but it might be our best chance at understanding its intentions and controlling its effects on our ship." Luna stepped forward, her hybrid physiology seeming to resonate with the energy pulsing through the ship. "I'll do it. My unique biology makes me the ideal candidate." Dylan's heart clenched with fear. "Luna, no, it's too dangerous. We don't know what it could do to you." She turned to him, her eyes softening. "We don't have a choice, Dylan. If we don't do something soon, the ship will tear itself apart." As they debated, Dr. Voss burst into the lab, her normally calm demeanor shaken. "The entity's energy is penetrating deeper into the ship's structure. It's triggering our weapon systems." On cue, they heard the distant sound of energy weapons discharging. The situation was rapidly spiraling out of control. Krell worked feverishly to prepare the neural link device while Dr. Voss ran a series of quick scans on Luna. "I must warn you," the doctor said gravely. "This procedure could have unforeseen consequences on your altered physiology." Luna nodded, her eyebrows furrowed. "I understand the risks. We have to try." As Krell attached the final connections, Dylan took Luna's hand, their empathic link pulsing with shared emotion. "I'll be right here with you," he promised. Luna lay back on the biobed, closing her eyes as Krell activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, Luna's body arched, her eyes flying open as her consciousness merged with the vast repository of knowledge contained within the entity. Dylan gasped as their empathic link suddenly expanded, flooding his mind with echoes of Luna's experience. He saw flashes of ancient civilizations, glimpses of technologies beyond imagination, and hints of a shared origin between humans and Brunali. Through their connection, Dylan felt Luna struggling to maintain her sense of self amidst the overwhelming cosmic awareness. He focused all his energy on their bond, becoming an anchor for her identity. "The entity," Luna whispered, her voice distant and awestruck. "It's called the Nexus. It's not just an archive, it's a gateway." As Luna delved deeper into the Nexus's secrets, Dylan felt a strange sensation building within himself. It was as if Luna's connection to the Nexus was unlocking something dormant in his own mind, hinting at untapped potential. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the lab. Dr. Voss rushed to check her instruments. "Her neural activity is off the charts. We need to disconnect her before—" But before she could finish, Luna sat up, her eyes glowing with an intensity that made everyone step back. "I understand now," she said, her voice resonating with newfound power and knowledge. "The civilization that created the Nexus, they didn't die out. They transcended physical form." The implications of her words hung heavy in the air, presenting a monumental choice for both humans and Brunali. As the crew of the Celestial Embrace grappled with this revelation, the ship continued to groan and shudder around them, a stark reminder of the immediate danger they faced. Dylan looked at Luna, seeing both his partner and something more, a bridge between humanity's present and a possible future of unimaginable potential. Through their empathic link, he felt her struggle to reconcile her expanded consciousness with her individual identity. As alarms continued to blare and the ship's systems faltered, the crew found themselves at a crossroads. They needed to find a way to stabilize their vessel and manage the evolutionary possibilities unleashed by the Nexus, all while making a decision that would shape the future of both their species. With time running out and the fate of two civilizations hanging in the balance, Dylan, Luna, and the others prepared to take their next critical steps into an uncertain future. With time running out and the fate of two civilizations hanging in the balance, Dylan, Luna, and the others prepared to take their next critical steps into an uncertain realm of possibility. As Luna's consciousness delved deeper into the Nexus, her body convulsed on the biobed. Dylan gripped her hand tightly, his heart racing as he felt the overwhelming surge of information through their empathic link. Suddenly, he gasped, his mind expanding to accommodate the influx of alien knowledge. "Dylan, what's happening?" Dr. Voss asked, her eyes darting between her patient and the concerned human. He struggled to form words, his senses overwhelmed by the cosmic awareness flooding his consciousness. I can see what she sees, feel what she feels. It's incredible." Krell monitored the neural link device, his expression a mix of fascination and concern. The connection between them is intensifying. It's as if Dylan's mind is adapting to share Luna's expanded consciousness. As Dylan's body began to tremble, Dr. Voss rushed to his side, scanning him with her medical tricorder. His neural patterns are shifting. His physiology is changing to accommodate the influx of information. While the drama unfolded in the lab, the Celestial Embrace shuddered violently. Commander Chen's voice crackled over the ship-wide communication system. "All personnel, this is the commander. Life support systems are failing in multiple sections. We are initiating emergency evacuation protocols." The lab's door slid open, revealing Admiral Thoran. "Commander Chen has accepted my offer to evacuate part of the crew to my ship. We must act quickly." Dr. Voss looked up from her patients, her face etched with worry. "We can't move them. The neural link is too unstable." As the evacuation began, tensions rose among the remaining crew members. Humans and Brunali eyed each other warily, old prejudices bubbling to the surface despite their recent cooperation. In the lab, Dr. Voss noticed alarming fluctuations in Luna's vital signs. Her hybrid physiology is changing rapidly. The merger with the Nexus is pushing her body to its limits. She moved to terminate the neural link but found the controls unresponsive. "It's self-sustaining. I can't shut it down." Krell, working frantically at a nearby console, suddenly straightened. "I've made a breakthrough. The Nexus isn't intentionally harming us. Its attempts at communication are simply too powerful for our systems to handle." His fingers flew over the controls. "I'm reconfiguring our systems to harmonize with its energy frequencies." As Krell worked, the ship's violent shuddering began to subside. The chaotic alarms quieted, replaced by the steady hum of stabilizing systems. Luna's body arched off the biobed, a silent scream on her lips as her consciousness began to separate from the Nexus. Dylan, still connected through their empathic bond, instinctively reached out with his newly awakened abilities. He visualized their connection as a golden thread, using it to guide Luna back to herself. "Come back to me," he whispered, his mind joining with hers in the vast expanse of the Nexus's knowledge. With a gasp, Luna's eyes flew open. She sat up, her gaze locking with Dylan's. In that moment, they both knew they were forever changed. "I can still feel you," Luna said softly. touching her temple. "It's like you're a part of me now." Dylan nodded, marveling at the effortless flow of thoughts and emotions between them. "I know. It's incredible." Dr. Voss approached, scanner in hand. "Luna, your hybrid physiology has evolved further. Your physical abilities have been enhanced. And—" she paused, staring at the readings in disbelief. "You seem to have gained a deeper understanding of both human and Brunali biology." As Luna processed this information, Admiral Thoran watched from the doorway, his eyes narrowing with interest. The potential of such hybrid technology could give the Brunali a significant advantage. He began to formulate a plan, his mind racing with possibilities. Luna turned to the others, her eyes glowing with newfound knowledge. The civilization that created the Nexus, they discovered a way to transcend physical form. They became beings of pure energy and consciousness. She looked between the humans and Brunali present. "This path is open to both our species, but it requires a level of cooperation we haven't yet achieved." The revelation sent shockwaves through the room. Humans and Brunali alike began to see each other in a new light, the possibility of a shared future suddenly tangible. As word spread throughout both ships, the dynamics between the two species began to shift. Many crew members started to look past their differences, inspired by the potential for unity and advancement. Dylan and Luna, their bond stronger than ever, found themselves at the center of this interstellar revolution. Their unique connection served as a living example of what humans and Brunali could achieve together. However, as Luna's body adjusted to its new state, she felt a familiar heat building within her. The changes in her physiology had intensified her Brunali mating cycle, and her desire for Dylan surged powerfully through their empathic link. Dylan's breath caught as he felt Luna's arousal echo through his own body. They locked eyes, the air between them charged with tension and possibility. Before they could address this new development, alarms blared once again. Krell's voice cut through the noise. "The Nexus is changing. It's reconfiguring itself." On the main view screen, they watched in awe as the Nexus transformed, its structure shifting to resemble a massive space station. The sight filled them with both excitement and trepidation, aware that this new form could be either opportunity or threat. Commander Chen's voice came over the comm system. "All senior staff to the bridge immediately. We need to discuss our next move." As Dylan and Luna prepared to leave the lab, Admiral Thoran slipped away, tapping a secret command into his communicator. On the Brunali warship, a team of loyal operatives received their orders. Infiltrate the celestial embrace, capture Luna, and secure any hybrid technology they could find. The stage was set for a clash that could determine the future of both species. As Dylan and Luna stepped into the corridor, hand in hand, they were unaware of the forces aligning against them. Their love story, now intertwined with the fate of two civilizations, was about to face its greatest challenge yet. As Dylan and Luna stepped into the corridor, the ship's intercom crackled to life. Commander Chen's voice echoed through the halls. "All personnel, report to your stations. We're initiating final preparations for the Nexus exploration mission." The couple exchanged a glance, their empathic bond humming with a mix of excitement and apprehension. They could sense the underlying tension permeating the ship, a palpable undercurrent of anxiety that seemed to grow with each passing moment. As they made their way to the bridge, Luna suddenly stiffened. Her enhanced senses picked up on subtle vibrations running through the ship's structure. "Dylan," she whispered, her voice tight, "something's wrong." No sooner had the words left her mouth than the ship's alarms blared to life. Red emergency lights bathed the corridors in an eerie glow as the sound of running footsteps and shouted orders filled the air. "Attention all crew!" Commander Chen's voice boomed over the comms, tension evident in his tone. "We have a security breach. All personnel enact defensive protocols immediately." Dylan and Luna broke into a run, their minds interconnected through their empathic link. They shared thoughts and strategized without uttering a word, moving in perfect synchronization. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a group of Brunali soldiers, their weapons raised. Luna reacted instinctively, her newly enhanced physiology propelling her forward with incredible speed. She disarmed the first attacker with a swift move, using his own momentum against him. Dylan, drawing on the abilities awakened by his connection to the Nexus, felt time slow around him. He dodged a blast from an energy weapon, the bolt passing so close he could feel its heat on his skin. With preternatural agility, he closed the distance to the nearest Brunali, incapacitating him with a precisely aimed strike. Luna, her movements a blur of efficiency, took down 2 more attackers in quick succession. Her hybrid strength allowed her to overpower the Brunali soldiers with ease, leaving them unconscious but unharmed. As the last attacker fell, Dylan and Luna's eyes met. Through their link, they shared a moment of awe at their newfound abilities and the seamless way they had worked together. Their moment of reprieve was short-lived as the ship rocked violently. The sound of weapons fire echoed from nearby sections. "We need to get to the bridge," Luna said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. They navigated the ship's corridors, avoiding pockets of conflict where loyal crew members clashed with Thoran's forces. As they approached the bridge, they encountered Dr. Voss and Krell, who were barricaded behind an overturned console. "Luna! Dylan!" Krell called out, relief evident in his voice. "We've managed to establish a direct link with the Nexus, but we can't make sense of its response." As if on cue, a strange vibration passed through the ship. The lights flickered, and for a moment, all sounds of battle ceased. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the commotion resumed. "The Nexus," Luna breathed, her eyes widening with understanding. "It's reacting to the conflict." Dylan nodded, feeling the same realization through their bond. "We need to stop this fighting before it's too late." They pressed on, finally reaching the bridge. The scene that greeted them was one of scarcely controlled chaos. Commander Chen stood at the center, barking orders as his crew worked furiously to regain control of the ship's systems. "Commander," Dylan called out, stepping forward, "we have a solution, but it requires trust on both sides." Chen turned, his expression a mix of relief and skepticism. "What do you propose?" Luna stepped up beside Dylan, their hands intertwining naturally. "A melding of minds," she said, her voice carrying a weight of certainty. "Similar to our empathic bond, but between key representatives of both species." Chen's eyebrows shot up, but before he could respond, the ship shuddered again. This time, a brilliant light enveloped the celestial embrace, emanating from the transformed Nexus. As the light faded, they realized all weapons and advanced technology had been rendered inert. On the main view screen, they could see the Brunali warship similarly affected. In that moment of forced peace, Dylan and Luna knew they had to act quickly. They explained their plan to Commander Chen, emphasizing the potential for true understanding between humans and Brunali. Chen listened intently, his eyes darting between the couple and the silent weapons around them. Finally, he nodded. "If Admiral Thoran agrees, we'll do it. It may be our only chance for real peace." As if summoned by his words, the comm system crackled to life. Admiral Thoran's voice filled the bridge, strained but resolute. "Commander Chen, I believe it's time we talked." Dylan and Luna exchanged a look of cautious hope. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time since their encounter with the Nexus began, they felt the possibility of a truly united future within reach. With renewed commitment, they prepared to facilitate the unprecedented mental connection that could change the course of both their species forever. As Dr. Voss began adapting the Neuralink technology, Dylan and Luna stood ready, their own bond a testament to the potential that lay ahead. The bridge of the celestial embrace, once a scene of conflict, now buzzed with nervous energy as humans and Brunali alike prepared to take a leap into the unknown. The transformed Nexus loomed in the view screen, a silent witness to this pivotal moment in interstellar history.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.